The James Show Podcast.
Dallas City Council had a meeting yesterday with a bunch of real estate developers salivating in the gallery. And there's a couple of council members that were actually making sense, saying, where's this coming from? There's no need to tear this down. This building's fine. What are y'all talking about? And then there's other council members saying, this is the worst building we have ever seen. There's no way. We've got to tear it down almost immediately. It defies logic. So where is the truth? Who is telling the truth in this one? Well, I'm going to go with my normal skeptical stuff and say, go with your gut. Do you feel like you're being sold a bill of goods here? Here's part of the debate yesterday.
I'm looking at these pictures that look deplorable, and it reminds me one of the schools that was in my district, South Oak Cliff High School. The building was deplorable. And when I'm looking at this, it looked like this building may be beyond life expectancy. Is that a fair statement to say that it's possibly beyond life expectancy?
I think in its current condition and its lack of investment could lead you to that, yes.
No, the building's 47 years old. I'm older than Dallas City Hall. It's past its life expectancy? What is this, a golden retriever? I'm sorry here. That building has many more years left in it, and it's not some piece of trash, dilapidated junk like, what was he saying, South Oak Cliff High School? Dude, the architect who designed this iconic building is the same dude that did that pyramid thing that you see at the Louvre. Yeah, the Louvre, the one that got robbed last weekend, the biggest and most important museum on planet Earth. Yeah, the same architect did our building. It's not a piece of garbage. Something else is going on here. We'll ask my next guest, Chris Putnam from Dallas Express. I was reading on your website about this story, and none of this is adding up, Chris. Where is this coming from, the idea that we need to demolish City Hall?
I don't know where the idea is coming from, but I agree with you. I don't think it's a great idea. And all you really need to do is look at the city council people that don't support abandoning the building. It's an I.M.Pei architected building, as you mentioned. It's kind of iconic. But Councilman Ridley, Councilwoman Mendelson, Councilman member Bill Roth, I mean, these are the folks that are at least reasonably staying on that city council, all oppose the idea. And, we governments at times, as you well know, like to build these monuments to themselves. And I understand the argument that there's commercial space available out there downtown because everybody's fleeing downtown, as you know. AT&T's about to as well, I'm pretty certain. That's relatively inexpensive, but this building's paid for. It's paid for. And, the thing that's really missing here, at least at this point, is a business case. I know there's a lot of questions around the cost of renovating the building. They claim that they've deferred maintenance on it for a long, long time. And consequently, it's not in great shape. But look, it's an iconic building. It's paid for. That's the most important thing, right? And unless there's some sort of great deal here for the taxpayers that involves them moving or leasing as opposed to upgrading an existing facility that's iconic, then I don't even know what we're talking about.
Well, what do you think about the theory that they're trying to make room for a Mavericks stadium or maybe even the Stars or a casino, or there's some real estate developer that wants to get his hands on this beautiful location?
My question to that is, if the Stars are leaving, right, which they've already suggested they are.
Hinted strongly, yes.
Yeah, and the Mavericks are going to move out of Victory. What's going to happen to Victory? What are we going to do with the AAC at that point and all of the development, the very successful development that's gone on down there for the past 20 plus years? You're just going to trade one problem for another.
Agreed. We're talking with Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express, dallasexpress.com, about the speculation here, because they had the meeting yesterday, and you had mentioned Mendelson. I have a quick cut from her, the city councilwoman, against this.
I have a fund for my roof. I have a fund for all sorts of things, because I know my air conditioning units are going to go out. The photos in this presentation do not reflect this building. I have yet to see a single crack in this building. Almost every house in Dallas has a crack from foundation. This thing is solid as could be. Does it have an occasional toilet that overflows? Yes. But have we not called plumbers for our homes? So this is a budgeting failure. This building is not a failure.
Man, even if you needed a new home, would you tear down your existing home or would you just build a new home? Something's not making sense here. Putnam, you still with me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I agree. And again, there's one of your few financially sane city council members explaining it to you, with a lot of clarity. It doesn't make sense for so many reasons. But we don't even know the cost implications and the cost to the taxpayer at this point. These big numbers get thrown out, and yet there's no detail behind them. And I'll also tell you from experience as a former elected official and watching what other elected officials have done with these sorts of things in various communities throughout DFW, even if they bite off on the idea of evaluating it, it will end up costing 10 times more to relocate City Hall than it will to stay there. It just will. A lot of times, again, they just like to build these big new, fancy government facilities. We saw in Fort Worth, they ended up buying the Pier 1 building. Way overkill for city government facility. And it costs way more than, they suggested it would initially. And same thing in North Richland Hills and some other communities.
Amen. Well, this is Chris Putnam. We'll continue with him from the Dallas Express, and we'll talk about his outlet's coverage of the protests over the weekend and some of the lessons learned there. And there was a little bit of violence that went completely unreported that Dallas Express saw. You'll hear about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, football fans. James Parker here for Prize Picks. Let me expand that. Basketball fans and hockey fans, you should listen up too. Look, I'm at the American Airlines Center. They got the plaza all decked out for opening night for the Mavericks here, and the first big sign has guess who on it? Cooper Flag. Guess who else is on the Prize Picks app? That's right. Cooper Flag. It's got all your favorite players, and it doesn't matter if you're into the pros or you're into college, you're into basketball or you're into hockey, you're into football. You make a lineup of 2 to 6 players. It could be a mix and a match from all these different leagues. Put your favorite players out there. Look at their statistics. Find one. Pick more or less on it. You can win up to 2,000 times your money with the Prize Picks app. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Millions of daily users, billions in prizes awarded. And if you're just getting started, you can get a little head start here if you use the promo code. Download Prize Picks, use promo code WBAP, and you get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. I already have my lineup set for this weekend, and it's only Wednesday. So download the Prize Picks app, use promo code WBAP. You get $50 in lineups with your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. We're continuing with Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express. And in the big story yesterday, I told you about on yesterday's show, they're having a meeting today and talking about tearing down City Hall. Well, they had the meeting, and we were just sharing some of the audio from the meeting where there seems to be a split. There's some people who are telling you this is the worst building, it's dilapidated, it's falling apart, and it'll cost $500 million to fix it. And then there's a couple, 3 people on the city council that are saying this building's fine. And when we ran a report on it 2 years ago, the full cost of repairs was only $100 million. So something's not adding up. Here's Paul Ridley.
This is an iconic building designed by an iconic architect. It makes a statement about the city of Dallas.
Yeah, that's Councilman Paul Ridley. Chris Putnam, is there anyone who really thinks that building is terrible? Don't we all kind of, isn't it maybe the greatest architectural landmark in the entire city?
Yeah, as Paul said, it's certainly one of the more significant ones. And it's very impressive. I don't know if you've been over there lately. It actually happens to be the rallying point for the thing, that we're going to talk about next, I think, which is these No Kings rallies. That's the last couple times I was over there. But yeah, it's an amazing building, and I don't understand it at all. I understand the building needs repair, but what's the alternative? You're gonna tear it down for a sports arena? And that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, also, I remember that they use this. We're going to go in the Wayback Machine here and just let you know how local we are. You remember when they used this as the city hall for RoboCop in the movie RoboCop? Now, they added
that's right.
some structure to it,
absolutely.
But the base of it, that's how cool and futuristic and awesome the design of the building is. So this idea that it's an eyesore and it's dilapidated, that makes me really suspicious of the people telling me that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And again, keep in mind, this is all colored by the fact that, we're in the middle of this major new convention center development, right? And there's been a lot of questions about how on the up and up some of that is. I won't go into detail here, and a lot of it we're still investigating. But, you do wonder who stands to benefit.
Well, and then the next story we're talking about kind of does tie into the City Hall situation. Now, you had one of your guys out there, Carlos Tercios, and he was on the James show, I believe on Monday's show, telling you what he saw. Now, when I went back and watched all the video from him and then from a mutual friend of ours, Alex Stein, who works over at The Blaze, there was actually violence that happened at the Dallas protest downtown. Now, it wasn't anything bad. They didn't put anyone in the hospital. But one of the guys that was with Alex got punched in the face. You can see it. Alex got his hat slapped off, which, again, isn't egregious. It's not like Charlie Kirk getting shot in the neck, but it does count as battery. And I haven't heard of any charges coming out of it. Is there no follow-up on that, Chris?
Not that I'm aware of, no. And to your point, folks can go right to DallasExpress.com and view these videos themselves. You know, what we're dealing with here is, I think it's pretty clear at this point, right? It's a color revolution. It just reminds me. Listen,
hang on. You're talking over people's heads. You and I know what a color revolution is, but just pretend like most people don't.
Yeah, I mean, you use mass protests and things like this, insurrectionist events, activities, those sorts of things to basically create political change. It's precisely what the Bolshevik Revolution was about, that brought the Soviets into power, and we're kind of dealing with the same people here. So, and to your point about what gets reported and what doesn't, of course, the legacy media, or what I always call the lying legacy media, never reports the actual details because it's inconvenient to their political narrative and agenda. And so I was at the previous No Kings protest. And can tell you firsthand, I mean, these people were not nice. Were they burning the city down? No. But the things that they say, the things that they do, particularly if they identify you as somebody that's not with their cause, it's not polite. Let's put it that way. And yes, there is some level of violence that occurs at just about all of them.
Well, and then the top story that's on Dallas Express right now, because we're talking to Chris Putnam, the guy who runs DallasExpress.com. Your top story is what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, and that's the delaying or halting of SNAP payments during the shutdown. I was saying that if this continues, you're going to see some civil unrest, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I don't know that people really understand the scale of that program. It's just huge. And the number of people, and there's also, of course, a lot of fraud and abuse that's associated with it. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that will be a contributing factor to the ongoing, left-wing political violence that we're seeing. It could absolutely affect it.
Yeah, and for the scope you're talking about, 42 million individuals across the country get SNAP benefits. And so even if half of them got upset, that's the largest army in the world still.
Correct.
All right. Another great thing you can read up on, thank you very much, is Dallas Express did a write-up on Miss Parker's art gallery opening this weekend. Just wanted to brag on Miss Parker getting a little bit of love and doing her little artist thing over there. So thank you very much for that. You can read that, and you can go see what she looks like and judge her based on her appearance. Go to DallasExpress.com.
I'll be there.
Yeah, actually, you're going on Friday, huh? That's fantastic. Yeah, Friday or Saturday.
I wouldn't miss it.
All right. Thank you very much for your great reporting and helping out with those stories. Chris Putnam, you can find him at DallasExpress.com. And also, look, you go to DallasExpress.com, or I think the better way is to go on social media and follow him. That way you have all these stories that are just delivered to you on your phone. You don't have to actively seek them out. What we have here, Fairhope, Alabama, it's not a big town. It wasn't a big protest. And in this small town, there seemed to be, from the videos I saw, maybe 36 protesters. And one of them got the attention of policemen because right next to a busy roadway, she's in an intersection, and I guess this is the busy part of town. I'm not familiar with Fairhope. She's dressed in a weenie costume, and I don't mean a dachshund, but it's those cute costumes that have the little fan in them so you can blow up the whole thing, and whether you're a T-Rex or you're one of the Fall Guys, or I guess Pepe the Frog is a big player these days. She's dressed like a big phallus, and it's a big 6 foot tall, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just this peach plastic in the shape of, you get it. And so a cop saw that, decided, hey, this is in clear view of the public, including minors, including children, including families. You can't just stand in the sidewalk in one of the busier intersections in town as a big, obscene sexual organ. So he asked her to take it off. She doesn't take it off. He asked her to take it off. She doesn't take it off. This is my right, First Amendment right. So then we have this awkward video where people pulled out their phone and they videoed when the cop was tackling the lady. And I mean, it doesn't look good in the fact that, look, it's a 53-year-old lady and she's wearing an obscene costume. Does she really need to be put on her stomach and rolled over and cuffed behind her back and then have two other cops come up and help out? And shamefully, I think the answer is kind of yeah. Kind of yeah. Look, there's a reason you can't put nudity on a billboard. Why is that? Well, because it's obscene and minor children will be exposed to it involuntarily. You know, it's one thing if you go to Blockbuster, and I realize it's not 1997, but stick with me. If you go to Blockbuster and you rent a movie that has, you know, some adult scenes in it, and, you know, you're playing it and your kid watches, I don't know, like Basic Instinct or something. Again, I know it's not 1997, but stick with me. No one's going to jail for that. But if you walk out in the street and you're presenting this to the world, I can see why some cops would say this isn't appropriate. There's kids that are in clear view here. You need to either take that off or we're going to take it off for you. So should you be allowed to walk around in a weenie costume at a protest? Because I was looking through the comments there, and some of them, look, I'm not 100% on this. I just lean against it. But some other people were making the case that, you know, kids probably don't even know what that is, number one. I don't know. How many kids are really paying attention to the costumes at a protest? I don't know. Well, what about free speech? Where do you draw the line? What if it had been the color pink, or what if it had been the color green, or what if it had been, I don't know, like tie-dyed? Would it still be illegal? So is it the shape plus the color? So there was a discussion that was being had there. I just don't understand the people who can't see it both ways. Like, there's no way. This is fascist. This is wrong. It's just a woman. She's not hurting anybody. She didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, but she's out there and she's dressed like that. You can't do that. I don't want you doing that in front of my kids. So it was really awkward, and it was really an ugly arrest. And I can kind of feel sorry for the woman. But no, you can't dress like that. Another thing we learned from the protest that happened over the weekend is this was a mind-blowing moment for me. There's a guy named Michael Cernovich, and I think he was one of the guys that got the air quotes Epstein list when they called everyone up there in February. He was one of those guys, one of those influencer dudes. But there was an interview, and Mamdani's campaign in New York City they did this cool little outreach event.
New York City!
Yeah, I know. Where they had like a scavenger hunt. And Cernovich was asked, you know, why don't we do cool stuff like that on our side of the aisle? And Cernovich pointed out, dude, we couldn't do that even if we wanted to.
You put out a tweet this weekend in regards to the No Kings protest that I thought 10 out of 10, one of the top thoughts that I saw floating around. So go ahead and put up 79. You said, they get to hold their protests without a care in the world. No snipers on buildings shooting at them. No masked thugs attacking them. Every media outlet fawning over them. Irony levels fit for a king. Mike, tell us what you were thinking there.
Yeah, well, what prompted that thinking was we take it for granted if you're a conservative or right wing. We take it for granted that we live a completely different life. Not to use too much language of therapy, but the trauma is so baked in that we don't realize that it's not normal. Well, wait a minute. I want to have an event. Immediately, I think, is the venue going to cancel? Are people going to call in threats? I need to talk to the venue owner first and brief him or her on this. Okay, we need armed security. Okay, where are people going to come in? And that's not normal, right? That's not normal. That's not how you're supposed to have to live in a so-called free and democratic society. Mm-hmm. And the people who make it so that we have to live like this, meanwhile, they get to walk around. I remember there was a scavenger hunt that Mandari, the guy running for New York City mayor, he had a scavenger hunting. Cassandra Fairbanks tweeted out, wow, this is really cool. I wish the right did stuff like this. And that's when I was shaken out of the trauma that we all have to live under. And I go, we couldn't. Could you imagine if you wanted to hold a Charlie Kirk scavenger hunt in Phoenix, Arizona, even Phoenix? No, it would not be possible. There would be disruption, violence, attacks that couldn't happen. Meanwhile, a mayoral candidate who's taking an endorsement from an unindicted co-conspirator in a World Trade Center attack, they can go about their day and have all the joy in the world or all the fun in the world. The No Kings protesters can do whatever they want, but they want to act like they're the good guys and that somehow they're protesting against authoritarianism and fascism.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a concerning statement there because it's true. You know, I was just talking with Chris Putnam from the Dallas Express, and we have on video some battery, and it's not anything huge. It's not like they were getting hit with horsewhips, but they were getting punched and slapped around and things that would count as battery that happened at the No Kings protests here in Dallas. It's not being followed up on. Remember all the Tea Party rallies that were had? Did anyone get slapped around? Did any lefty journalist or I repeat myself, anyone get slapped around for that? No? He's right. We're not living under the same set of rules. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because some of your political opponents are feral. And in this one, chalk this up to what I thought was common sense. Turns out to be a debate in the court of public opinion. And this report comes from WFAA, and they do a really good job in this one as far as journalism goes of presenting both sides of the story. The frustrating part when you see a good balanced story like this is I don't think there is an other side to this story. I don't think there is a case to be made where you should allow people to camp on the park that's across the street from the library in downtown McKinney. I don't think you should let people just lay down and fall asleep on park benches in public spaces. But here's the report, just to give both sides of it here.
William likes this spot for the shade, for the visibility, and because it's next to the library.
We have all the resources are very close to us.
When the library closed for renovations, it pushed a lot of the homeless further out into the streets. William has been out here for a full year and tries to make some money crocheting little pumpkins.
A lot of these people lack community. They don't have any family or friends. That's why I'm here.
But maybe not for long. The city is looking into two ordinances. One makes it unlawful to sleep, lie, or sit on a public sidewalk, street, or median. The other would prohibit camping on a publicly accessible space. Mayor Bill Cox heard from so many business owners who say their customers felt unsafe on the square.
Job one, keep our citizens safe. Job two, keep our businesses operating.
Tuesday night was a packed meeting. William even rode his bike to hear this. Powerful testimony from those calling the city heartless.
This merely punishes people for existing while poor.
We won't have to save face by telling people they have to go away.
Others calling the city honest about a real problem.
Sometimes tough love comes into play.
This is just ridiculous in McKinney.
The city did finally approve both ordinances. This now gives police the enforcement power to give out warnings, then citations, and beyond. But at this same meeting, the city decided to also do a year-long study on homelessness locally.
How do we as a city, how do we provide, what do we do to help that challenge and that population in McKinney?
William felt like he already knew how they'd vote. The crocheting helps him make money, but also takes his mind off this newest problem.
It's really going to disturb me for a moment while I try to figure out the next step.
In McKinney, I'm Jobin Puttiker.
So I think that's just common sense. Of course you shouldn't be able to camp out in publicly accessible spaces. That's just like I thought that's a no-brainer. And for anyone who's like, oh, well, where are they supposed to sleep? Well, they can sleep in your yard if you're okay with it. Why don't you invite them to come pitch a tent in your front yard? You can have a whole shanty town in your front yard. Invite 10 people to camp out in your front yard. Go ahead. You can do it. No one is stopping you from helping these people. The problem is you're forcing other people to have to deal with this, and they shouldn't have to deal with this. If your tax money is being taken from you involuntarily and going to build a sidewalk, you should be able to walk on that sidewalk without having to step over sleeping people, without having to dodge tents, without having to have some guy that's just sitting there asking you for change. And look, my heart goes out to these people. But when the guy from McKinney says, well, what's the city supposed to do about this? How are we supposed to provide for these people? You're not. That's not your job. Government is not supposed to make sure that every person has a house. Government is not supposed to make sure that every person has shelter and has somewhere to sleep at night. You can come up with your own private sector charities to do that. You can do it through your church. You can do it through mutual aid clubs. You can do it through your school. You can do it through, I don't know what atheists do. Y'all can gather together and get an empty room and have them sleep there. But you can go buy property. Just why don't you go buy an acre and let them sleep on the property that you own if you care so damn much about them. But see, this is the disastrous part about socialism is for some people, it makes them think that they're actually doing good in the world. For those of us who aren't socialists, we see a problem. Oh, how are we going to help people who can't afford their medical bills? How are we going to help people who, lost their food stamps? How are we going to help people who can't afford to find a place to sleep? And we come up with ways to help them. We donate to St. Jude Hospital. We donate to the local food bank. We volunteer. And some people actually get things done. And then you feel better for it. And if you actually do charitable actions out of true altruism, not for PR, not because you're going to put it on social media and show the world what a great person you are, or you donated money so your ad would be in the program or any of that. If you actually do charity in the right way, for the right reasons, there is something that happens in your soul. It's like a salve. It's like you're filling this void in your hole that you can't get anywhere else. It's one of the reasons the Bible pushes it so hard. Every religion pushes it so hard. Being charitable with your resources and your time is good for you. But if you never do that, if you think the way to help homeless people is just to take more tax money from people and give it to government and let them deal with it, then you're never actually being charitable. You're never actually getting that hole, that void in your life filled at all. And you're not helping when you do castigate other people for passing laws like this, very reasonable, common sense laws. You're not the good guy. If you're like, well, I'm for this, I guess how are we going to take care? I would like to take care of these people. You don't. No, you wouldn't like to take care of these people. You would like to force the government to force other people to take care of them, but you're not doing anything. But yet they run around with the moral high ground in their head that is just all fantasy. Oh, I'm a good person. I don't see how anyone could vote against the Democrats. I mean, I vote for the Democrats because I care about poor people, because I care about hungry people. I care about people that need medicine and housing. No, you don't. You don't care about any of those people. You aren't doing anything. You are just voting for your preferred political party and expecting them to do something about it with other people's money. But do you support these new laws in McKinney? You can't sleep on sidewalks. You can't sleep on park benches. You can't pitch a tent in publicly accessible spaces. Because I thought that was a no-brainer. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, in the absence of them being able to sleep in public spaces, what should we do about them? We'll talk a little bit more about that next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.